Today's reading is from Luke 20 verse 41 through to Luke 21 verse 4. Now, hopefully you've been journeying with us through these daily studies, and if you have, you'll know that we've already covered this passage in Matthew and Mark's Gospels. But as a former school teacher, I just think the repetition that God has given us is really helpful. I think today you'd call it spiral learning. And I think it's certainly going to help us by the time we hit the more mystical, cryptic Gospel of John to understand who Jesus is. Now, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, they'd been trying to catch Jesus out, trick him, ask him difficult questions, embarrass him, discredit him. And here Jesus well and truly puts them in their place by asking them a question they can't answer. And it's the sort of question that when we read it, it doesn't make much sense without some background understanding and without a little bit of understanding the original language, the Hebrew, that the psalm is from. The Pharisees and the Jews of the day, like all ancient cultures, they believed that a son or a descendant was inferior to a father or an ancestor, always, 100%. Now that was a big problem because it meant that they would always look at Jesus as inferior to King David or someone like Moses or Abraham. That's a big problem. In fact, not seeing Jesus for who he really is was fundamentally their biggest problem, as it remains for all people, all time, including us. You've got to behold right to believe right and therefore behave right. So it's about seeing Jesus for who he really is. Anyway, Jesus now demonstrates to them from the scriptures, the Old Testament, that the coming Messiah, the Christ, the one born of David, a son of David, who they were waiting for, was in fact going to be superior to David. Now, we just have one word for Lord in English. I'm aware of how silly that sounds. It's the word Lord. You know, you're following me so far, the word Lord. But if you were to look at the word Lord in Hebrew in this psalm, the psalm would read a bit like this. Yahweh said to my Adonai. Who's Adonai? King David's Adonai, the psalmist's Adonai. Yahweh, the one true God, said to David's Adonai, David's Lord, David's Messiah, come and sit at my right hand. Yahweh didn't invite King David to sit at his right hand the first place. He invited David's Lord to sit there. And the Pharisees knew what that meant, that the Christ, the Messiah, the person that people believed Jesus was, the Christ, was being invited to the higher place. Now to us, without the sort of Jewish and ancient misunderstandings and with the benefit of hindsight, that makes perfect sense. Jesus, the Messiah, the Christ, is the greatest person who has ever walked this earth. And we know that he is now seated at the right hand of God, Yahweh, the place of highest authority and power. But for those first hearers, that would have been mind-blowing. Because not only did it shake their theology of greatness, but it meant that this long-awaited Messiah, the one speaking to them right now, also spoke with Yahweh some 1,000 years before this conversation. And that David, their hero, he heard that conversation and he recorded it in the Psalms. And we're like, well, yeah, sure, Jesus is the greatest, he's the pre-existent Christ, he always has been, he always will be, no biggie, I get that. But for them, they're beginning to see the unfolding mystery of the incarnation. The pre-existent Word, the Word from the beginning made flesh. Now, I could give you 3 easy tips to be a better Christian today, or 5 keys to unlock your blessing, or 4 words beginning with P to help you overcome fear. Or I could say, when did Jesus last blow your mind? Do you see him day by day a little more clearly, as that old hymn used to say? To behold him for more and more of who he really is. For when we do so, faith rises and behaviour changes. It's a reflex. So see him for who he really is. Amen.